Hello, hello. Let's see. All right, are we live here? Hello, friends. Welcome. It's so good to see you. Let me know in the comments if you can hear me okay, if our sound is good. And just say hi to me. I'd love to connect with you. I can't believe we are here. We are here on the last 2 days of the year. I just want to honor you and thank you for being here and spending this hour with me today. Amazing. Thank you so much, Megan. So good. All right, so let's just start by settling in, like really just slowing down for a minute. It's the middle of the day. You've done a lot of things already today, and I really just invite you to be here with me for the next hour. I'm going to try to keep it an hour and just really try to be present here. Try not to be multitasking, doing the 20 other things that you feel like you should be doing right now. I would encourage you to grab, if you have paper and a pen, just so you can start to take notes. We'll have some thought-provoking things, some writing activities to do together. And also just something warm. I have my tea here with me in my Living What is Possible mug, and I am sitting on the floor in my office. I have a nice cozy blanket. I have a candle lit. We are just all about the vibes right now. So just do what you need to do to create a space for yourself that feels luxurious in whatever way that means for you right now. So I would love to start by just sharing with me, what are 1 to 3 or however many words that you would describe the past vibe of this year for you? So the past year, 2022, what is really the vibe, the words that you are feeling at this point towards the end of this season for you? I would love to know in the comments, what are some of those words that you are feeling right now? What is the vibe? Perfect. Hi, Molly. Hi, Megan. So good to see you. What is the vibe of your year? Let me know in the comments. So for me, I would say it's patience, presence, peace, and persistence. And for me, it was really learning to enjoy where I am at on the way to where I'm going. Feeling so grateful for the details, for the moments, the little things, and then also the persistence of getting up intelligently. So persistence can feel like the grind or the hustle or like the white knuckling your way through, like, let me just survive. Let me just get through this, right? Some years can feel like that, right? So we're just like getting through, or surviving. We're like ramming through, we're forcing things. Very different energy than using wonder and wisdom from your experiences to get up intelligently, to move forward with more wisdom than you came in with. And you have staying power, you have focus, you have clarity, you don't have a plan B. It's what you're doing, staying power. And learning through each season and getting up more intelligently each time. So that's for me, like really where the persistence is. And then this overwhelming peace I've had more recently, which can be such a strange feeling when so often our lives are surrounded by noise. And if you notice this in your life, it's just noisy, whether it's, kids running around or there's constant things going on around you. Maybe just like noise in your head of all these shoulds, or I should be doing this, or what people are saying, or maybe people are giving you an impression of what you should be doing. You're hearing a lot of these messages, especially around the holidays. let's see what you got. Occasionally organized chaos. Okay. I love that. I love how we can use both of these words. Like a lot of the words I said were very different, but they coexist, right? So peace and persistence are very different, but they can coexist, right? And then having presence, but also patience can coexist. Maureen says my vibe is strong. I love it. Hope and excitement. So, so good. So good. So the thing with each year is a continuation of a new chapter in your book of life. And it's not about erasing prior years or looking at them as a wash or a loss, which so often we can do with really hard years. We can say, let me just forget about that year. Let me just forget that didn't happen. This year I just survived. Where if you look at each new year as just a continuation, as an evolution of your journey, it's not about saying this year was bad or I'm just glad it's over or this year was good, so I don't want it to end. It's really recognizing there is an appointed time for everything. If you have a vision inside of yourself, it's for you. It's not going to miss you. Our mind is the most powerful tool that we have, and it starts with our beliefs. Fundamentally, it starts with our belief system. If you believe that you can't, you are going to sabotage your progress because you believe that you can't do it. But if you have staying power, if you have a clear vision, if you have a very strong identity of who you are, other things won't shake you. Environmental factors, people's thoughts, because your thoughts become your beliefs become your mindset becomes your actions, and your actions determine what your reality is. So if you had a transcript about what you thought, I want you to write this down. If you had a transcript about what you thought in your brain, what was playing, everything about your life would make perfect sense. And that was a quote from Tim Story. So if you had just like a running transcript of like all your brain thoughts over the years and years of your life, everything about where you are would make so much sense, because literally that's how we take action, is from our brain. I've been experiencing a very peaceful feeling lately. Love that, Maureen, for you. Of course you have. So the key for transformation is these different pillars here that I want to start with. And these pillars are similar to what Tony Robbins talks about, if you're familiar with his work at all. Number one is our patterns. So these are really keys for creating change and transformation in our life. Our patterns, which are really a collection of behaviors and habits, right? Our patterns each day that we take, what we're doing, how we're acting, what choices we're making, our habits. And you can write these down too, because we're going to really go through these. So number one is patterns. Number two is identity. Who you are. This is the strongest force in our human personality, is our identity. And we're going to dive deeper into that. Number three is deciding. So there's a difference between like idealizing or idolizing or preferring something versus deciding. Deciding, like, no matter what, you have the staying power, you are doing it no matter what. And that's a huge piece of transformation. It's not about, this would be nice, or ideally this would be great, right? It's just kind of like, but I'm not really like deciding. So when it comes to our identity, we have a limited identity or an expanded identity. And you can look at this in so many different lenses. Our limited identity are all of those thoughts in our brain that are coming from lack, scarcity, overwhelm, fear, like the things limiting us from creating the change in our life. And as we are having this conversation, I want you to write down limiting identity and expanded identity and start as things come up in your brain. What are limited identities that you have for yourself? What are those words, those feelings? Like when you're feeling like I'm going to put a hood over my head, be a hermit, crawl into a ball. Like, what are those feelings in that limiting, overwhelm, lonely, like all of those feelings? What are those for you? And then also, as we're talking, what is your expanded identity? Who is your authentic self? Like, who are you at your core, your true, authentic person? We are multifaceted humans, right? And whatever identity we choose is the one that we show up as. We have both of them, but whatever one we feed, meaning we really nourish and nurture, is the one that's going to show up more. So we have to zoom out, and I want us to look at like big picture here now. So zoom out before we can really zoom in. You are an amazing, multifaceted masterpiece. And in order for us to create clarity and connections around where we are, sometimes we have to look back at our transcript, our manuscript of our life. So I'm just going to share with you a little bit more about my journey in hopes that it will spark things for you. And that's my only purpose of sharing this with you, is really for me going through all these things in my life that have happened to create this beautiful clarity now that I have, where a lot of things didn't make sense or were really hard. So I want you to start by going back to when you were a little sweet nugget, a little sweet chicken nugget, a little girl, and what your identity was when you were young. So I'm just going to take a sip of my tea. So we're going to really go back to that time for you. Little Jenny was so confident. She wanted to be an actress when she grew up. And she had a license plate in her bedroom hanging up. And I'm referring to myself in the third person because I feel like it's me, but it's like a different level at this point. So I'm gonna use the third person. She had a license plate in her room and it read actress. That is who she identified with. Like, she was gonna be on stage. She also wanted to be even a news reporter, like not even a reporter, but on the news. Like the person that stands on the TV is like on the news. She was in theater. And she would get up on stage and she would perform and memorize all of the lines. And she would get up on stage and she would sing her heart out, even though she did not have the most angelic, harmonious voice. But she believed that she did. And to this day, like, that is the one thing that, oh my goodness, I'm like, the people that can sing and just are so talented and gifted in this way, I admire. That was not really the vibe of little Jenny, but she did it anyway. She was a dancer. She loved to perform. She was in recitals. She was in the Nutcracker every single year. She tried every opportunity there was. She did figure skating, gymnastics, softball, track and field. She zoomed down that track like it was nobody's business. She won 3 first prizes in track and field. Like when she was a little chicken nugget, just like running down that track, sprinting over things, jumping high, just like living her best life. She was highly involved with every opportunity. She started to play field hockey, and things started to change for little Jenny when she was about, I would say 14, or it's like those timelines. I don't even remember exactly, but I would say like that pubescent preteen years. And at that point, there was a lot more influence from your environment. So a lot of her friends were playing field hockey and sports. And I was doing a lot, I'm going back and forth in the way I'm speaking. And she was doing a lot of dancing and things that were outside of school. So she decided to do a sport in school, which was field hockey. And all of her friends were doing that. And, she really got involved in that. She would be so determined. She would do summer camps. She was zipping down that field. And one day, things started to change where she just she didn't have that zest anymore. She didn't have like that competitiveness, that power, that like, I'm going to get this ball and shoot it in the net. She wouldn't take the harder shots always. She was a forward. So like really the goal person. And when we're very young, you have a very pure view of your experiences. You only know what you have been exposed to, what you watch on TV, what you watch on the news, what people say to you, what you hear, what you take on as your experience. So again, looking at the identity, when she was young, she was confident, she was athletic, she was fast, she was hardworking, she was determined, she was willing to try new things, she was open to new experiences, she was intuitive with what she wanted, she was a leader, she was peaceful, she was magnetic, she was unstoppable. And then one day, little Jenny went to her neighbor's house, and she was sitting at the counter with one of her best friends growing up. We'll call her Erin. And Erin's mom, we'll call her Mrs. T, was asking little Jenny what she wanted to be when she got older. And Jenny said with excitement, an actress. I want to be an actress, right? Like with every bone in her body. Yes. And Mrs. T said, do you know how hard it is to be an actress? Do you really know what goes into that? And I honestly don't remember the conversation of like the words she said to me in terms of like how awful this idea was and how bad this experience would be. Just like we don't always remember what we hear, but we remember how we feel. That for me was like such a clear moment. Like, those moments in your life that you know exactly where you were sitting, what the environment was, what you were wearing. Like you could repeat that moment. Let me know if there was a moment in your life that you feel that way, that you can pinpoint exactly this like tipping point or turning point for you when things shifted. So that's when I was so crushed. I was devastated. I really felt like that was like a huge traumatic experience for me. And I don't remember the timeline, but that's, I think, when really things started to shift for me. Like, again, I was talking about in field hockey, I didn't show up the same in my games. I didn't go after the harder shots. I would almost dim that light that was inside of me. I was more inward. I was more introverted. I was more quiet. I was more meek. I was more timid. And that's when we hear that limited identity coming out, right? That I can't do it. I'm overthinking it. I'm uncertain. I'm overwhelmed. I'm alone. I'm closed off. So as we transition through this, my mom was always on some kind of a diet. Our house was filled with diet books, all these different things. The ones I remember most were the South Beach diet, isogenics, and juice cleanses. Those were like the ones I remember the most. So let me know what the diets that you grew up with. And this can be maybe things that your parents did when you were growing up. But again, it's what you're exposed to. It's what is around you. And I just want you to, for a second, like take a deep breath and know that the experiences we've had are things that we didn't always choose. It's just things that have been modeled or taught to us that we've taken on as our own, and maybe has chosen that as our identity, or someone has told us that's our identity. So if you were growing up and someone said to you, you're overweight or you're fat, like that is how you identified yourself, even if that wasn't even true. But maybe you're carrying that with you, like deeply, of who you are because of that moment in your life. So again, these are all just moments that I will come full circle with this, but I started to subconsciously latch on to these restrictive eating patterns with dieting, with exercising as this form of control in my life through these more difficult years. So, as we're going through changes in our lives, right, that things happen that are different, uncertain, out of our control, we need to have some kind of like control, right? Some steadiness, some comfort. And oftentimes we go towards things that aren't the most healthy options, right? So this can look like drugs, alcohol, under eating, over exercising, overspending money, like all of these things, right? That can be less healthy coping. So I remember, starting on these diet patterns, and in the beginning, it's not really harmful per se. I remember like with my friends taking diet pills and things like that. And I was not an overweight person. Like it was completely unnecessary for me to be doing this. I think it was just like what you do or what was portrayed, that like you should always be seeking a smaller body and that was valuable or you were achieving something. But I think we have this deep identity with our body. And if you've had a certain body size, whether maybe you had a smaller body and now you have a bigger body, and then you've identified yourself with a smaller body, and if like all these things really, really deeply affect who we show up as and how we identify ourselves. So what, I realized is that this was something for me that I could control, that I could manage, that I could achieve, that I could be awarded for, like having this body size, right? And this was innocent when you're younger until it starts to not be. So when I went to college, I went to a really big school. I went to the University of New Hampshire, and it was out of state for me, but it was really a big school. I knew nobody, zero, nobody. I was put in a triple with these two girls that nothing in common with, completely opposite of me. I felt so lost. I felt so alone. And this is a big life change when we're changing our food patterns, our sleeping, our environment, our relationships, like everything was different. And so I want you to recognize those points in your life where things change, life events, we call them. Whether it's getting married, right? Relationships are changing, moving, having a baby, a loss, like all of these things in life change our identity too, and just like how we show up in our life. So I noticed that all of these things, I started to latch back into this like comfort in this area of my life that I felt like I could control. When everything else felt completely unknown and uncertain, I was using things in my life in the past that I felt like I could control, I could feel accomplished by, which was nutrition, which was food, right? Essentially, which was exercise, which was controlling my body in that way, which was controlling intake. And then this, I think just progressively turned into more and more throughout that year. And I started, in college drinking more than I ever had, but I wasn't a huge partier, in high school. But I was drinking more, and then I would notice, like, because if I was under eating during the day, when you're drinking, all of these like you have less control. So you have more, what's the word I'm trying to think of? More impulse. And my body was like literally needing energy. So I would overeat after drinking, and this began to turn into episodes of bulimia and anorexia and not good, like really controlled periods of my life. I mean, I remember like freshman year, this was, after having like drinking too much, like going back and just eating spoonfuls of peanut butter from my roommate and just eating whatever I could. My body was asking for nutrition. And thankfully, like I can see this so clearly now. But at this point, like there was so much guilt and shame and so much heaviness at this point. So eventually I found a circle within the school and I really began to thrive. I ended up joining a sorority actually, which I never thought that would be my thing, but I really had a great experience. I was recruitment chair. I really had a good experience with that. And I worked really hard in school. I had a great experience overall in college ultimately. And also throughout my time there, I got really into Bikram yoga, which is hot yoga in a nearby town. And that was like a really healthy outlet for me. It was a different challenge than I've experienced. So after I was completing my degree, despite working so hard, there was one credit that my guidance counselor told me right before I graduated. In high school, I had like these credits that were college credits that I thought were all good. Before I graduated, they brought me in and told me one of my credits from high school didn't train. I think it was like 3 credits instead of 4 to get that amount of credits I need to graduate. So I couldn't officially graduate from college. So I had to take another class over the summer. I ended up not getting into my internship to be a dietitian that first year. It's a matching process, and I didn't get matched with the school. So that was a really hard place to be, right? All these things that I had envisioned for myself were not happening. So instead of just giving up and saying, screw it, this is not meant for me, this isn't working out, like going in that downward limiting spiral that we can so easily do, I just chose to do other things that genuinely brought me joy and passion that were still moving in that direction. So I actually ended up going to Bikram yoga teacher training, which was in Los Angeles. And I stayed in a hotel room in downtown LA for 3 months with a roommate from Czech Republic. So this was people from all over the world, which was a very amazing cultural experience, coming together to learn this yoga. And this yoga had really helped me in so many ways in college. And I just felt very called to teach this and learn how to teach this. So I ended up doing that, and again, had a great cultural experience, worked through a lot of challenges. I moved to Connecticut. I taught there. I just got deeply involved in the culture. I got mentored from the studio owner there. I started doing a health coaching program that was more of like holistic. And then I came back home and I decided I'm still on the path to be a dietitian. So I still move forward with that. And I just did other things. I worked at a doctor's office, and I still taught yoga. I started waitressing to make some extra cash. And then I decided to start my master's program instead of my internship, which is a little bit backwards. I just knew, like, I just have to figure this out. Again, that staying power, that persistence. If it's in me, it's for me. This is what I am meant to be doing. There was this deep sense of, I know this is what I'm here to do. And so the path did not look traditional or conventional, but I knew that this was for me. So throughout this, while I was waitressing, that's where I ended up meeting my husband. And if I hadn't not gotten into this internship, I think it was like 2 or 3 times that I didn't get in. It was wild. I would have never met him, and he's my soulmate. So that was the timing for that. And then I ended up getting my internship, became a dietitian. I ended up working in long-term care, a very corporate job, a clinical setting, post-subacute rehab. Had a great experience, but again, we started to really go down like the corporate ladder, and all of this like society identifies as success. So we built a house, and we were doing, again, all of these really big life changes. So what I noticed with working full time, I was also still teaching at night, and just really burning myself at every end of the spectrum. I started to fall back into these habits again with this like control, because I felt like everything in my life was just like so uncontrolled. And I started to go back into these under eating, over exercising, but it was even more extreme than before. Significant weight loss. I mean, I, again, did not need to lose weight. And it wasn't even a sense of like, I was trying to lose weight. it wasn't about the food. It wasn't about body. Like, this is the thing, guys, is it's so much deeper than that. It's a sense of like what we're seeking and the problem we're trying to solve. I was using this as control, as like this like white knuckling of what I could control in my life when everything felt out of control. And this is only from like long-term perspective of like where I am to where I was, and being able to maturely connect the dots here. But at the time, this was so much guilt and shame, right? Because especially because I'm a dietitian, I identified myself as like, I was a yoga teacher, and I had all these things that I latched onto. And I'm coming to a point with this, but so this time it was even worse. So significant weight loss. I probably was like 15 pounds less than I am now. I had amenorrhea for 8 months, which is losing your cycle. So all these extra things your body does starts to not happen anymore. I remember just having really difficulty concentrating at the end of the day. I was working with an intern, and usually I can do like 20 things at once, and like, and like my brain was like, come on. It was like not working. Again, we need energy for our brain to function. We need carbs for our brain to function. My brain is like, oh. So I'm like, something had to change. Something had to change. Oh my gosh, I'm just reading the comments. Sorry. Okay, I'll come back to that. So something had to change. I started, it started with my husband wanting to open a restaurant. So my husband's a chef. He had always had this vision of wanting to open a restaurant. So we went through the business plan, the application process. We had a building picked out. And this is when we had already like built this new, beautiful, brand new house. Okay. And we had like moved in, and we'd been there maybe like 2 or 3 years. I'm not good with like timelines and dates. So we have this beautiful house. We have this good life, but I'm like, something's got to change. I can't do this. And so he was also working a corporate job. We were going to go into this restaurant with him, his vision, and move closer to that location, also closer to family. And then I was just going to start my own business and, kind of see how that went, but really focus on the restaurant. So we decided to rent our current home and move closer to that area while I was starting my business. And we ended up not getting approved for this loan to open the restaurant. This was literally 6 months before COVID happened. So thank the Lord that we did not open this restaurant, because it would have literally been like right when COVID happened, we would have opened this new restaurant that no one would go to. So we'd be in like millions of dollars of debt with this restaurant. My husband would like be in a deep depression, because this is like his dream that we just be in debt for, that we can't even, like, it just would have been bad, even though we thought it was what we were supposed to be doing. So I ended up really going all in on my business with nutrition. And again, like, thank God I was able to do this. And I just went all in. I quit my job. We had tenants in our house. And then I was sitting at the table with my parents. Chris was still working at his corporate job, my husband. And we got a phone call from our neighbors. And she said, you better sit down. We had 3 pine trees fall onto our home that we were renting with tenants in it. That was I quit my job. Like, that was our money that was supplementing the job I was no longer working. We had a plan. We had a plan of how to do this. Okay. So we have huge pine trees that caused $100,000 worth of damage, like brand new house, huge pine trees, 3 of them fell on our house in a storm. Like, this is something that you would never even dream of happening. It was one of the most like stressful things. So, it's also raining. It was a microburst. It was this like one in a wild thing that would never happen. A microburst happens in such an isolated area. We had neighbors around us that had no damage. We were the only house that had this significant damage. And these are the moments where you're like, why universe? Why God? Like, why is this happening to me? So, we went through this whole process with the home insurance and getting that figured out. And, our poor tenants couldn't live there, so they had to move out, and we weren't getting rent from them, obviously, because they're not state. It was just Oh my goodness. It was just like such an awful situation. So that was one of the most trying times really for our marriage, for our life of like, this is like, I quit my job, like financially, mentally, like it was not good. It was not good. Um, so we ended up, working through this. We got the house in a better place. I, at this point, just worked on my business. I just worked on my business. I'm like, the vision is for me. It's in me. It's going to happen. And we ended up, after moving through all this, which took like time, we ended up selling our house, and we recently just bought a smaller house that's right near my parents. We love the location we're in, and we renovated it the past year. And we've just really created this beautiful space for us over the year that we're still working to create. My business, it's been 3 years that I've created this amazing, impactful life for so many different people. And I truly believe like this is what I'm supposed to be doing in every bone of my body. And just the journey I've been on of struggling with nutrition and struggling with all of that with the education, like I know the things, like I know the science, I know all the nutrition, but it's so much more than that. Right? It's so much more than that. It's so much more than nutrition. It's our mindset, it's our experience, our beliefs, our patterns. It's why we're using food. It's why we're making these choices, our behaviors. So just looking back, it's like the choices I made of control in my life, those things were what were modeled and taught to me. And it was all form of control. And it's just using different ways that we can find this control in our lives. I just want to hug Jenny the Nugget. Oh my gosh, I love you, Maureen. I also remember a defining moment like that. That's amazing, Molly. I would love for you to share if you feel comfortable. My mom was on and off of Weight Watchers all of the time. Yeah. Yeah, totally relate. I'm so glad this is hitting for you guys. Okay. So I just felt like called to share that with you because I think it's so easy for us, especially as health professionals, to come off as like, I'm better than you or I'm higher than you, or no, I've had different experiences than you is what it is. And hopefully my experience can collapse time for you because of the things that I've been able to connect. So coming back to this identity, what masks are you wearing right now? What are you holding on to as your identity that has had its season in your life? Meaning it's been there, but it's time to move on from that. And I think and this was true for me for so long, is like I had this identity of myself that I couldn't let go of. And it was no longer really adding value to my expanded identity, my authentic identity. So what are the parts of you that you know right now? Like at your core, who are you fully at all of your layers? And, I did this for myself too, of like really, back in March, I remember writing this. So sometimes we get so caught up in like, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a teacher, where we get caught in like, again, those are things that society has identified you as roles in your life. But like, I want you to go deeper. And again, if there's anything you can share, I would love for you to do that, of just like, what else, like who are you at your core, your authentic self? And I'll give you some examples because this can be hard to identify. So let's see, I wrote down some different things here. I appreciate the simple aspects of life. I love the stillness of the mornings, not having somewhere to be at a certain time. I love being in the beauty and vastness of nature, believing in something bigger than me. I enjoy solitude and being with my thoughts and feelings. It lights me up when I watch other women own their power and embody their confidence. I value close, intimate, genuine relationships. I'm determined as heck, and I will work harder than the smarter person. I love to move my body and am working to listen to what that looks like each day. I will figure things out that I don't fully understand. I am better about asking for help. I am my biggest fan and also my worst enemy at the same time, which I think we all can feel. And I want to like scream that we all have that limited identity and that expanded identity. We all have it, every single person. every single person. The people that show up more authentically are the only difference they have between the next person is they just, again, that they have when we go back to the pillars that we talked about in the beginning, their patterns, meaning they embody that person of their true self, their habits, their actions, they visualize that person they want to be, they embody those characteristics, and they show up as that person each day. They have very strong identity of like who that person is and why it's important to them. And they've decided that that is their destiny. They don't prefer it. They're not like, oh, wouldn't that be nice? It's unshakable. So this is part of your integration work today that I really want you to work through is like, who am I as my authentic self? Some other words. I am resilient. I am determined to figure it out. I will work out, like I said, the smartest person in the room. I am loyal. When I trust someone, I am loyal. I value close, intimate circles and two-way relationships. I'm a leader. I'm steadfast. I'm a nurturer, a lover. I love being inspired by people who are walking the talk. I'm a trailblazer. I can see a bigger, brighter future. I appreciate the simple things. I love soft, cozy clothes. I am authentic. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm ever evolving. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I'm a projector. I'm sharpening my edges. I'm multifaceted. I have made friends with being a failure, which has helped me to be successful. And again, this is just stuff that what can be so helpful is going back to your little self and saying, who did that person identify herself as before all of these experiences happen and things that people were telling you happened. Like, who was that person way back before? Because that was your purest intentions. Those were your purest intentions. And I'm sure you see this with your kids, right? There is no defeat. They are just like all in on who they are. They don't care what anybody else thinks. This is hard. Yeah. I'm so grateful that you shared your story. I can't believe you had the courage to continue and touch so many lives during a challenging time for you. Thank you, Maureen. Thank you. I want to cry, but this was so hard for me to do, to be 100% honest. I've never shared this before. And it really took a lot of just like working through all these things and connecting the dots. And I think for me, the most helpful thing to realize was all of these experiences were a continuation of where I'm supposed to be. And I was just using these things as like a coping form. We need that comfort. And that was what I latched onto. That was comfort. It could be anything. So we all have our things. Thank you for being around us. Yes, I think we all have to, right? It's just, and I appreciate, I've worked with so many of you here, and I appreciate you being honest with me and authentic. And I value that so much. Like, I like to go deep. Like, I am here for the deep conversations. I am not here for like the surface level of the cocktail parties. And like, let me just tell you about my greatest accomplishment and what I'm doing and all these things. It's like, let's go deep. Like, let's really have tea and go deep. I think my authentic self is still in the making. I was completely lost as a child, didn't experience confidence or have a voice until I was adult. Yeah, I feel that. But like, I think that is just like, whoa, it can kind of like give you that tightness in your throat of like, whoa, I have to really swallow this and work through this. And this is why, like, this is just day one. I'm looking at the time. It's been 45 minutes. Okay. This is just day one. This is why I broke this into 2 days, because I knew this is just like touching the iceberg, just touching the surface of really what this has in store for you. But this is the work, and it's your story. It's your journey. I am just here to illuminate what is already inside of you. You have the answers. You know who you are. Nobody else can decide that for you, but you also have to recognize that for so much of your life, people have probably created that identity for you, and that's okay. But you don't have to continue to own that if you choose. You have a choice. Since working with Jenny, my authentic identity has been revealed in so many ways. Ugh, Maureen, like you are so inspiring to me. I can't even tell you. The vulnerability you've had and the authenticity, it's a hard word. It's just so good. So good. I appreciate you so much. All of you. Oh my gosh, so good. So I appreciate that with every single person I work with. It's about a relationship. It's about like, let's really go here. The deeper layers that we can unfold, the more you can actually transform and show up in your life. And this is oftentimes why we can't stick with things, is because our belief around them. So even coming back to just the world of dieting, right? And just those food obsessive thoughts, like all of those thoughts that you have around food are just your experiences in your life. And so often we don't believe that we can be the person that loses weight, or that whatever your goal is, like if you don't truly believe that you can be that person, you're going to sabotage the actions that you're moving towards that. It really starts with that belief, and that's your identity. So that's why we have to start here in order for us to create this change. It has to start with your belief system. If you genuinely believe that you're never going to be able to do that, you're going to continue to take the actions that sabotage your progress. So that's one of the biggest things in why even resolutions, if we go in that direction, 80% of people give up or throw in the towel on their January resolutions by February. The average American attempts weight loss or nutrition changes 4 times a year. Yet we're continuing to invest in the same diets that are continuing to give you the same poor result, or the temporary fix, but not addressing the root problem. So you're spending all this money repetitively. And that's why the diet industry is so lucrative, because it's the only place in your life that you're continuously failing, but continuously doing the same things that aren't working. Excuse me. So that's where you have to start. A few other things that are limiting us from really seeing that long-term change is changing too much at once. So first it's that belief system, then it's trying to change too much at once. So you have to be realistic with where you are in your life. Your circumstances, your schedule are probably very different than 10 years ago. That's okay. What masks are you wearing? What identity do you need to change? What season has been great, but now it's a new season that we need to release to rise into who you get to be. So you have to be realistic with where you're at in your life and what the strategies or habits you're doing now are going to look like to get you there. If you're trying to change everything at once, so you're trying to do all the things, you're trying to change your nutrition patterns, you're trying to work out 5 days a week, you're trying to drink 120 ounces of water, like all these things at once, you're setting yourself up for overwhelm, and we can't stick with it. Or like these are all different scenarios, or you don't have the support that you need. As humans, we need to be held accountable to someone or something. Ourselves, absolutely. But we also just need to have that safe space in our life. And so often it can be helpful to have someone that is not directly involved in your day-to-day life, right? So like a spouse or a partner, or even a friend, like having someone that is more highly involved in you, but like an external person, right? And that's where I hope to be with, what I try to be with my clients, is that I can see like a big picture, bigger perspective, but I really know them as who they are. Otherwise, it's so easy that we come up with a million reasons why not, right? That limiting belief. There's a reason why this is an area of your life you're trying to improve. And we got to work through those barriers and challenges with support. Another piece is unrealistic expectations. You're going to, do something that's so extreme, or eliminate all these foods where it's so extreme from what you're doing, and your expectations are not in alignment with what's realistic for your circumstances. It's a temporary solution. So if you're doing something for 30 days, this is where like the whole, even the sober January, or what is it, dry January thing. I was reading an article where they called it like, what about damp January, where you just try to drink less alcohol instead of just trying to be completely, no alcohol and going to that extreme. And then all of a sudden, typically what happens, people just go right back into that over excessive drinking right after. So is it really helping you to change your habits? Maybe it's created some awareness, but why can't you just be more intentional about trickling in that in a more moderate way in your life? So your integration work, write out your limiting identity. What are the things in your head first that are limiting you from making the changes that you need to make in your life right now for yourself? The second piece is writing out your expanded identity. You can call this so many different things. Your authentic self, your true self. One of the things I'll do with my clients, and Maureen, this rings a bell for us too, giving your limited identity a name because it's like two different personalities, genuinely. That limited, like negative voice, give it a name. It's so helpful to like disassociate or separate ourselves with it of like, oh, I hear it. I can just think of Maureen's limited identity. It just makes me chuckle so much. It's so good. It's so helpful though to like say, oh, I can hear that voice coming up. So it could be something like Ursula, right? Like some of those like Disney princesses so Ursula's coming up in my head again. We're going to choose to go to the expanded identity. And then what are you ready to release to rise intelligently? What are you ready to release to rise intelligently? Each experience of your life is moving forward intelligently. So just to kind of go back to what I was saying to wrap up here in the beginning is using that wonder and that wisdom in sync to coexist with that persistence and that staying power, learning through each season and getting up each time more intelligently. Each experience happened for you. And it's the wisdom that you gain from that, whether it was a challenging experience, whether it was a great experience, it's all created this wisdom. And it's going to happen for you just as it's supposed to. If it's what's meant for you, can't miss you. There is a point in time for everything in your life. If the vision is for you, it's in you. My limited identity, cold-hearted bitch. Yeah, I love it. It's so good. It's so true. It's so true. Like, I really want you to get out this like deep, because you are the person that lives with your thoughts more than anything. Like, this is literally what is going to get you anywhere. It's what is going on in your brain. You are with yourself majority of the time. And this is why so often people have to have like noise around them or like the TV on or distractions, or because the noise in their brain is so consuming and overwhelming. We have to work through that. That is who you are every day. That is who you live with every day. That is what needs to evolve. And like really like hash it out with that, of like all those deep, dark shadows that follow us around. Okay. So that was a lot. That was a lot. That is what I want to leave you with today in our day one. And then tomorrow we'll be back Saturday 11, just to continue this conversation. And I really would love for you just to take the time to go through this for yourself today. Really think about this, be present with this. And then tomorrow we're going to start to work towards creating this clarity and this vision for how we move forward into what that looks like for you in the last day of the year. It's going to be so powerful. Thank you for taking this time for yourself in your very busy schedule. I honor you. I love you. I'm grateful for you. And I just appreciate you being here and doing the work, because that is how we will make powerful changes in our life. So I appreciate you so much. Any other questions before we wrap up here? You are so welcome, Melissa. You are so welcome. Okay. I will see you all tomorrow morning. These will be recorded in the Facebook group, but they will be limited time. So I will have them recorded if you want to rewatch things. They will be posted temporarily. So that will be available, especially if you're joining us for day 2. So you can watch this first. Okay. I love you. I will see you tomorrow.